Hey everybody, it's Elizabeth from Silver Nest Homeschooling, mom of four, and we've been homeschooling for 11 years. And I wanted to go over some classic kids literature / fun books to read when you are in elementary school. They make great read alouds as well, but they're also just really great once your kids love to read or know to read. There's some series that you can give them knowing that they are safe, interesting, exciting, all the things. And because these are more in the classic section, I would call them classics as in they have lasted from generation to generation. So maybe at least 3 generations or sometimes 4 generations of people reading these series and enjoying them and letting the next group of kids also enjoy them. Also because they are more from maybe the 40s, 50s, 60s series, they are going to reflect that kind of thought processes and life, but a lot of them are still have some really great lessons and ideas and things and are just fun to read. So I'm going to start with, this is a definitely not as classical literature, but just definitely fun, the Encyclopedia Brown series. And if you haven't seen these, I grabbed all of them because I want to kind of show you how many generations of Encyclopedia Brown have been reprinted. You can see all the way back in the day, and we have quite a few of the different books in the different iterations, reprintings. But what I love about Encyclopedia Brown is that he is a boy detective who's solving clues and cases, and his right-hand woman is a girl who comes alongside, and she's the strong buff one that makes sure that he's protected. And his nickname is Encyclopedia. His dad is a policeman, so every now and then the cases actually have to do with real crime. But usually it's childhood, elementary school, I think he's in 6th grade, problems that are basically logic puzzles that this reader and the family that's reading it can actually solve themselves. Also, there's short stories inside here, so it's not going to be all just one story. And so kids can sit there, like this one, to solve them all. They can go through, and then at the very back of the book, it has the answers. So they're going to say, why did Bugs, who's the bad guy? He's always the bad guy. Why did Bugs figure out a way to trick that kid out of his money? And then Encyclopedia comes along and proves that he's the one that tricked the kid out of the money because of some very detailed thing. And so I love how it makes our brains solve those logic puzzles, find those solutions. And of course, right is always right and wrong is always wrong, and the good guy always wins. And there's just something really assuring about that this group of friends can constantly find solutions. It costs 25 cents for Encyclopedia Brown to solve the case, and don't we wish things cost 25 cents now? But that's okay. If you can find these floating around in your world, I really, really do recommend them. Really love them myself, which is why I've sat around to collect quite so many. All right, another one. This one was my childhood copy, Clues in the Woods by Peggy Parrish. And I just love Peggy Parrish's work. She's also did the Amelia Bedelia series that I talked about in an earlier video. And she also does the Mrs. Pigglewiggle, which I do not have piles to show you today, but I highly recommend the Mrs. Pigglewiggle series. And they are much more popular than this series, but this is about 3 siblings, and they solve cases, Key to the Treasure. There's also the Haunted House, so they've been reprinted into more modern, so you can see you can't get copies of these, but you also can maybe at the thrift store find the 80s copies, the Pirate Adventure, the Ghost of Cougar Island. There aren't any supernatural things going on. There's always some reason that things are solved. And what I love about this series is it actually puts challenges for the kids to solve in the book. So there'll be like a crossword puzzle, and you're actually going, you get the clues yourself as the reader, and some artwork. Of course, not very much. It's mostly going to be reading. But you yourself can try to decipher the different problems that are happening right along with the kids and figure out where the treasure is or what the thing is happening. And so I just love this series. And if you can get a copy series for your kids, maybe grab the first one and see if they like it too. My brother just finished reading this to my nephew who is in 2nd grade, and he absolutely loved it. But my daughter, she read them in 4th and 5th like I did, and read them on her own. And yeah, she has those on her special shelf because she likes them so much. All right, other series that is great. We really prefer just the first one, The Boxcar Children, is the original story. But there is a huge collection of mysteries that the Boxcar Children go off and solve. They're highly improbable and highly interesting. If your kids like series like that, like Nancy Drew, Hardy Boys, all those kinds of kind of mass fiction that can be really fun to just read and just for the fun of it. So, but the first one, The Boxcar Children, is a good mystery and really exciting about these 4 children, siblings, that's parents are passed away and they feel like they don't have anywhere to go. So they end up living in a boxcar and solving their problems, finding ways to find solutions. And then at the end, there is a happy ending. But I love the way they learn to live off the land, that they work together, they support one another, and they're very resilient, kind of like the railway children in that respect. All right, another favorite of ours, especially mine, is these wonderful Margaret Henry series. And if your child likes horses, or you would like your children to like horses, the Shintotig series, my original copy here, Misty of Shintotig, and yes, there is a movie, is all about the horses that swam across and were lost off of a Spanish galleon, and are actually real horses that live in Assateague and Shintotig. And so they have these pony races and these pony penning days where they go collect the wild horses and they pull out the baby horses and raise them and sell them. And so this is back in the 50s talking about that. This one, of course, is the original Misty of Shintotig. And then later on, they have these other series. So like Sea Star is an orphan who happens. But she wrote, then you have Stormy's Misty's Foal, which is my favorite out of the series. But there's a lot of these books by Margaret Henry. These are just the ones we own. And if your kid likes stories and you like stories about, again, siblings working hard together, they live with their grandparents. I think their parents are passed away, and they have all these different chores they have to do. They have to work hard. They fight hard for their dreams. They work together and they accomplish things and they learn. And it's all very accurate with the way that horses need to be taken care of and things like that. So really great to read out loud, really great for them to read. All right, The Great Brain. If you're looking for something funny and frontier, this is about a city that is just being built, a frontier town, and the antics that this one family of brothers gets up. And of course, the little brother is telling the story of his big brother who has the great brain, and the great brain solves different things, but also causes trouble for his brother. And there's one really hilarious story where they catch the measles, and every time they get sick, their mom makes them all get into bed them together. And so the one brother decides he's going to get sick first so he can finally inflict all his older siblings with the sickness, and they get retaliation on him. So we have more Adventures of the Great Brain. And then, as you can tell, we really like it. So we have 2 copies because more than one of my kids like it. Also, if you like Mercer Mayer, he's the one that illustrated this particular series. Me and My Little Brain. The Great Brain is back. And, oh my goodness, the third. I have 3 copies of More Adventures of the Great Brain. So I guess since I have 4 kids, I guess that's logical. There are more books than this. My kids are always asking for a few more. They find them very funny, very hilarious. So yeah, we do recommend the Great Brain series. I was going to show you. This is definitely a chapter book with a few illustrations. Okay, you can tell the print's tinier. It's going to be a little more difficult to read. The Boxcar Children, more art, slightly shorter chapters, simpler. And then the Peggy Parish, I think I already showed you the inside, but it's definitely more along the level of the Boxcar Children. Stormy Misty's Foal. But I wouldn't say that they're hard to read. The illustrations are kind of fun. Encyclopedia Brown. They're usually 4 or 5 pages per story, 1 piece of art, and then the question at the end. All right, Charlie and the Glass Elevator. All right, so James and the Giant Peach and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Roald Dahl. I like him. He's a bit dark at times. So I would reserve him for older kids. Like my daughter was really sad reading James and the Giant Peach. The whole beginning is very, very sad. And then once she pushed past that, she really liked it and finished it in one day. But he's not afraid to look at some of the harder parts of being a child and the difficulty of growing up in a world that's maybe not safe, not pretty. And so as long as you're aware of that, again, you might want to start with reading them out loud first. Of course, most people have heard of the movie of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. There's a couple different forms now. But we really like the original. And then Charlie and the Glass Elevator is actually the second book of this series. So yeah, that is Roald Dahl. Again, you're going to look more tinier print, few pictures here and there, not super long chapters. A Simpler Time, a Simpler Place. Oh my goodness, I love Ralph S. Mouse and Mouse and the Motorcycle. These are so funny. They're all about a mouse and his adventures and his interaction with different grown-ups, meaning kids, real kids as well as his siblings, and the kinds of things that you would imagine a mouse getting up to. When he makes noises like vroom vroom, he can make his motorcycle move. And then this one is the second one where he actually gets to go to school. But I like Beverly Cleary. I think her stuff really does capture what being a kid feels like on an essential level. She is writing back in the 50s and she was from Oregon. So her stuff is small town Americana. One of the really fun things about what she writes, though, is this is the story of Henry and the Paper Route, but this is Ramona from the Ramona series. So you'll get to hear Henry's perspective on life, but then in the Ramona series, you'll get to hear Ramona's perspective on Henry, which I think is really funny. So here you have Ramona series, has Ramona the Pest following Henry Huggins. This is my original copy from the 80s. And then the Ramona series includes Ramona and her mother, which she squeezed out the entire tube of toothpaste. Don't we all want to do that? And Ramona Quimby, age 8. There's also Ramona and her father. There's also Ramona and Beezus. There's also stories about Eleanor Tidbits, like all different kinds of characters that live in this time period. If your kids like these, they're often found at the library, just like the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and also Misty of Shintotig. They're pretty classic, so they're usually library found. I don't know that you would find the Peggy Parish series at the library. I haven't been able to, but of course I have found the Boxcar Children. So yeah, but there's probably maybe 10 to 15 books you could get of Beverly Cleary. And she's just a wonderful writer, wonderful to read out loud, and also wonderful for kids to read to themselves. The print is bigger, and the artwork is there, so you can tell it's definitely for a slightly, potentially younger crowd, but I enjoy listening to them today. Again, I'm going to give the advice that I heard once that says, if you as a grown-up enjoy it, as well as your kids, then it's great literature. All right, the last 3 are standalones, but they give you an idea of series you can read. Eleanor Estes, she wrote a lot of different things, but the Moffat series is one of my favorites. I really like the Moffat Museum, or the Moffat, depending on how you want to pronounce that. And then this one's all about the middle child. So that's a series that takes place even earlier in the time period, thinking more like, I think the 30s. I think it's more of a slightly after the Great Depression, during the Great Depression. I apologize. I should know that part. To me, I just go into the world, right? But they have a good time. It's growing up in very, very small town, trying to survive without all of the things that most people have, learning how to be creative as a family. And I love that. Siblings play into it a lot. Again, it's those plucky kids that learn how to persevere even when life is hard. Stuart Little and Other Things by E.B. White. Think The Pig. Was it Charlotte's Web? Yeah, so E.B. White wrote Charlotte's Web. He also wrote Stuart Little, which is about a mouse going on a great adventure. And we really like E.B. White. They're just overcoming things, trying to gain some kind of fantastical animals that can still talk to real people. Is that, back with the Ralph S. Mouse, kind of that blur between fantasy and reality. I mean, they're living in a real world. What would it really be like to be a mouse and trying to endure life in a a world full of people. So not living as a mouse, but definitely living more like a human. And then Robert McCloskey, you might know him from Make Way for Ducklings, but he also wrote some chapter books. Homer Price is one of them, and we think it's hilarious. He likes to invent things, and we like Homer Price. So he is a great, if you can find some more Robert McCloskey, they are great books to be able to pull out. This is a real boy thinking out loud and living out these rich and hilarious dilemmas with solemn and devastating humor. The American comic genius is in his top form. So yeah, again, we're looking at things that tend to be from middle America, or trying to solve, overcome, and hilarious. That's kind of the theme of today. So I hope that was helpful. I hope it gave you some ideas, some books to go look at, or maybe it eliminated some books off your list. Either way, we love books here, and we hope that this can add some value to your family as you're learning to read, or your kids are looking for a new series. And we will talk to you soon. Thanks for hanging out with us today. If you like, subscribe, list your own favorite books in the comments. That would be so helpful. If we're all in it together. So if we can share books that your kids have loved, then we can have people go and look for those series. Just a great hive mind. All right. Thanks. Talk to you soon. Bye.